You take a look at page 5 and read over a summary on page 5 before you watch this video. Page 5, this video connects with page 5 and 6 of the early religious wars of Europe handout that you got on dashboard. And this video pertains specifically to religious war in the Netherlands. As the reading on page 5 stated, the northern part of the Netherlands here largely Calvinist, and the southern part Catholic. The entire area was under the political control of the Habsburg family, specifically Philip II, King of Spain, who inherited the throne of Spain and the Netherlands when his father, Charles V, abdicated, gave up the throne. Now take a look where the Netherlands are located on this zoom out map. Here are the Netherlands. Here's France. Here's the Holy Roman Empire. So you have the Netherlands located in northwestern Europe. And as you read, Philip II wants to maintain religious uniformity, as most rulers were looking to do during this time. Philip II wanted to stamp Calvinism out of the northern part of the country in order to maintain strict political and religious control over this entire territory. You had a desire amongst some in the Netherlands, specifically the Calvinists, for greater independence from the rule of the Spanish. Okay, let's talk a little bit about some parallels regarding the Netherlands and the French religious wars, and then we'll go into even greater depth regarding that theme. Just like in France, this religious war becomes increasingly brutal and destructive, and the society in the Netherlands, just as it did in France, begins to break down under endless cycles of religious violence where Protestants are killing Catholics, Catholics are killing Protestants, and there ends up being increasing amounts of dysfunction. There was really a question at this time on a civilizational level, increasingly a question of whether the various societies that were being torn apart by religious warfare and the civilization at large would be able to survive. So let's take a look more in depth about some of the similarities. Oh, another similarity before I forget, sorry, is that you had Calvinists and Catholics fighting one another. That was the same as in France. This division between Calvinist form of Protestantism and Catholicism. Let's take a look at this theme more in depth through the artwork of Peter Bruegel. Bruegel was a very interesting artist because he did not focus his artwork on painting portraits of kings and lords and members of the wealthy middle class and the church, etc. Bruegel trained most of his attention on common people, and this is the average experience of peoples that he was chronicling during the 16th and into the 17th centuries. So Bruegel was a very thoughtful and sensitive person in that he realized that the work he was doing was illustrating how most people lived during this time. So here's one example of Bruegel's work, The Wedding Dance. Now, Bruegel became increasingly focused on religious warfare as cycles of violence increased in the Netherlands. And here's his painting called The Massacre of the Innocents. And this is a scene of a Spanish cavalry coming into a village in the north of the Netherlands, seeking to tamp down and stamp out Calvinism, and in the process committing a number of violent acts and a massacre in the village. So Bruegel starts training more and more of his attention on the way that religious war is affecting average peoples. He's not glorifying military victories of a king or of a lord like many artists did. He's looking at the realities of what religious war means between its combatants, which involves a tremendous amount of suffering. And then Bruegel takes it even a step further in his masterpiece, The Triumph of Death. And Bruegel, more than anyone at this time, starts to articulate a vision about what religious warfare really is starting to signify and mean in Western civilization. Not just in the Netherlands, but throughout Western civilization, you have a number of societies simultaneously roiled by seemingly endless religious conflict, in which both sides claim to be acting in the name and for the will of God, and both sides see it as appropriate to try to exterminate and completely destroy the other side, which they see as a satanic threat to God's truth. Well, here you have Bruegel questioning religious warfare. And here you have Bruegel questioning how could religion, and in this case Christianity specifically, be the source of truth if it leads to slaughter and desolation. And that's the commentary Bruegel's making here. That this notion of absolute Christian truth, this lack of any type of religious pluralism or diversity, is leading to destruction and desolation and slaughter. Here you can see in the background a scene of destruction, decay that Bruegel is pointing out in the civilization. You can see ubiquitous crosses everywhere here. Here are the armies of Christianity, Bruegel argues, and it is leading to utter destruction. These armies take the form of skeletons. You see massacred bodies everywhere. And Bruegel takes the argument a step further in saying that in fighting for absolute Christian truth, it is actually leading to a decay, not only in the civilization through just abject violence and suffering, but it's leading to a fundamental decay in Christian practice. And here you see Bruegel saying that massacres for the glory of God are not in keeping with proper Christian practice, and that the civilization has gone down an erroneous and utterly destructive pathway. This is best symbolized by this cross here, which is over the gates of hell. Bruegel meant this to represent the gates of hell, and he said that these massacres in the name of absolute Christian truth are actually sucking in the people and dragging Christians throughout Western civilization, whether they be Protestant or Catholic, towards hellacious acts against their fellow human beings that is not in keeping with Christianity and is risking the future state of Western civilization as a cohesive and coherent civilization. Here, Bruegel has painted a very sensitive illustration of the increasing breakdown of Western civilization, which was only to worsen in the 30 Years' War, which is the biggest religious war, and which we'll study coming up here very shortly. Now, ultimately, politically, this is the way things play out. The northern part of the Netherlands is able to develop independently from, is able to break away and gain independence from the southern Catholic Habsburg territories of the Netherlands. And in the northern part of the Netherlands, what you have happen as a result of this tremendous religious warfare and breakdown, you have the passage of what is called the Union of Utrecht. And this is, I'll be reading from some sections that are on page 6 of your early Religious Wars handout. The Union of Utrecht is this declaration passed in 1579, and it's a declaration of unity of the northern provinces, so they're declaring their unification in the face of the Catholic southern part of the Netherlands. But they declare the Union of Utrecht, which is a document that includes the following statement, and this quote is on page 6 again of your handout. It says, "Each person shall remain free in his religion, and no one shall be investigated or persecuted because of his religion." So just like France, you had the breakdown of society in warfare between Catholics and Calvinists, and ultimately, in order to solve this breakdown, you have ultimately the promotion of religious tolerance, religious acceptance of the other. in order to alleviate and reduce the religious tensions that had torn these societies apart for decades. And here you can see an example, just a quote. As a result of this, the Netherlands drew in a tremendous amount of peoples who were being religiously persecuted throughout Europe. So here you have one example of a Jewish individual, a rabbi, making the statement that at present our people live peaceably in Amsterdam. That's the capital of the territory here, the United Netherlands, and here's Amsterdam. The inhabitants of this city, mindful of the increase in population, make laws and ordinances whereby the freedom of religions may be upheld. So again, you've got this progression of the start of religious warfare, the breakdown of society, and ultimately the growth of toleration. Now, France and the Netherlands will be the only societies moving in this direction at this time. And like I said, in the 30 Years' War, the religiously inspired, and there will be some political dynamics to the 30 Years' War as well, but the religiously inspired warfare will get even worse during that time.